Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Report. We are without Hasan Rahim today, but it's all right. We have a very special guest. RotoViz writer David Phillipi is joining us. You know him at this time from leaving insightful comments usually in our streams. Today he's on screen with us and joining us live. How's it going, David?
It's going good, Blair. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've been writing the kind of a dynasty version of the zero running back universe that Sean does, and that's been a lot of fun to talk about. Or the game we want to talk about is this Oakland, not Oakland. What am I saying? Oakland, Las Vegas game where we have the Raiders putting up 63 points, Aiden O'Connell leading the charge there. Quarterback that I think maybe a lot of us hadn't even heard of before the season started, and in Superflex leagues, you're kind of scrambling to learn what you can about this guy to see if he's worth putting on the roster. Leading the Raiders with 4 touchdowns, 248 yards. It's these late round quarterbacks are always, I think, pretty tough to value in Dynasty as well, in Superflex leagues, especially because O'Connell may have just had the best game of his career or something, or certainly one of the best games of his career. He doesn't have the pedigree necessarily to prove that he can be a long-term viable fantasy starter. The way I'm kind of approaching guys like O'Connell and even Easton Stick, who played against him, I think is one of kind of measured skepticism. Like, I'm optimistic that we'll see more games like this from O'Connell, more games like this from guys like Stick. But even after this game where the Raiders put up 63, I still kind of want to see more out of him before I'm going to feel comfortable playing him. Am I thinking about this the right way, or do you have a different take on that?
I lost you briefly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, you sound good now.
Here?
Yeah, this sounds great.
Good. We've got I should have gone with my son's gaming headset to begin with instead of
you go.
Apple product. We're on O'Connell. You're asking about playing O'Connell.
I was asking because I'm kind of trying to think about him from a dynasty perspective, and whether we should believe this performance against a Chargers team that has basically given up the season already, or are you still skeptical about his talent the way I am a little bit?
So, I mean, I have to be somewhat skeptical about his talent, but that's like, you got to do that to everybody, I think. People had huge skepticism about Sam Howell going into this year, and then it looked like us Sam Howell truthers were doing good, and today was not such a great day for those of us.
Yeah.
I think I would be trying to approach it more from a question of like what makes sense from the organization right now. And I don't know how to project. If I was a Raiders guy, I'd probably have a clear take, right? I don't know how they'll operate, but what I see is that I see like a player oriented coach who's also probably forward thinking in terms of like, I'm going to keep my foot on the gas to the extent that I can. Now, we just saw 2 weeks ago, they couldn't do anything. But once he was they were able to score points, and they were like, we're going to score points. And that's what the Lions did even last night. And I think that the Eagles' failure to practice doing it, it's like you have to practice blowing teams out, because football, you get so few reps. And if you don't practice doing that to teams on the big stage, then how are you going to just have it in your bag when you need it? So I think, Aiden O'Connell being part of Antonio Pierce, like building this thing, it gives him a much better shot than if he was Easton Stick. Like
Right.
Easton Stick is in a way worse, situation to have. I mean, we also don't need to. I don't want to make their performances seem analogous because they really were not in any way, shape, or form. It was just that one guy got pushed to the biggest like garbage time deficit you could imagine, having to make up. So there was room to score. But yeah, I think O'Connell being in maybe the right place, the right time, if he can win a couple more games, if he could, I don't know who are their opponents. Well, they got the Colts in the end of week 17, but who are they playing next week?
They're at Kansas City next week, at Indianapolis week 17, and then
tough.
home against Denver. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, a win in any one of those games goes a long, long way for him, I think.
For sure.
And not making mistakes. So not losing the games. It's one thing if he can't win them, but like if the fewer mistakes he makes. So yeah, there's a chance there. I think it's more just it shows you need to try to add the Aiden O'Connell types when they appear and not be like, oh, that guy's not going to be anything. You gotta try to get them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, these guys, you think about, Brock Purdy last year was playing, I think, a lot better even than O'Connell has been for most of the season until Thursday. But yeah, that's another good example of a guy who kind of comes out of nowhere and ends up, whether because of his own play or because of how successful the team is with him, a guy that you have to pick up.
Yeah, but Purdy's in like that's as good as it gets, right?
You're right.
In being with Shanahan. We can even look at like Mullins. Does Mullins get to play in Minnesota? I don't know. Is it chicken and egg? Like, do you have to be good enough to play for Shanahan in the first place, or he got to be with Shanahan and that got him to be with O'Connell, and then he got another chance?
Yeah.
So Purdy, it's any quarterback's dream to be with Shanahan. I think like that's been the stereotype, and I don't think it's incorrect. But yeah, I'm also not in any way trying to suggest Purdy isn't doing this through his own talent as well. I think he absolutely is.
Right. How do you kind of balance that approach with picking up these quarterbacks that seem to be doing something with also avoiding a lot of the busts that come along with that? Or is that just a cost that you're willing to eat if you're picking up quarterbacks in Dynasty?
I think so. It was interesting to see the size of bids on guys this week because there was a range of them. Lots of people don't have any budget left.
Right.
So they weren't able, but a lot of people, if they were empty in the clip, if they had anything left. So, and like Easton Stick, he still scored over 20 points in most formats, right? Like, I don't know. Like you can't place such a premium on the position that they are the top of startup drafts and then not add guys that are going to get starts. Like it's just like we add the running backs that are going to get starts and quarterback starts. The floor should be higher. So even though we're overvaluing the top of the position in Superflex, maybe, in some weird logic, we're undervaluing the back end because it's like we have to prop up the idea that those top guys are actually worth that much. Right. So the replacement level guys can't be worth that much, or no, they can't. It's like, I don't know. I can't think of a season where there was so many backup quarterback points scored.
Right.
Not just backup quarterback starts, because there have been bad seasons, but like people have scored points and then they faded away and then they've been back on the bench. But in the meantime, they've gotten you through.
That's right.
People's fantasy seasons are going to hinge somewhat on Joe Flacco. Like, that's crazy, but it's true.
That's insane. Yeah. Yeah. Flacco, man. I mean, I did pick him up in some leagues where I was really desperate and it didn't feel good. And I'm happy I did. So there you go.
It's surreal. I wouldn't have believed it. Like,
I
I
know.
wouldn't have believed it in 2023.
Crazy.
But then I heard he's only 38, right? I mean,
yeah, he could
he's
play
not even
another 6 or
Rodgers'
7
age.
years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to hop into a gauntlet draft? Let's fire one up.
Sounds good.
Now, you mentioned that you've done a few of the mittens. Is that right? So I'm hoping that
Yes, I have.
you have some strategy for this that you can guide me here.
Is this your first
This is the
playoff
first
draft?
one I've done this season, yeah.
Oh, well, no, okay. Well, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Niners were I had gotten a start where I got Debo, Ayuk, and then Purdy and Kittle came back. And I was feeling so good that I got distracted, and I don't think I brought it home well because they really are looking very good for a bye, especially with Hurts questionable tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, it's like you kind of, I mean, I love the idea of stacking Niners, but
right.
they are looking like they're not going to be very usable to get through the round one. So Eagles, Chiefs, being that they will likely play in the first weeks, like that's a good one to play.
Cowboys losing today.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes it does that make them more attractive and that they're just less likely to get a bye?
So I kind of like, everyone seems to want to be like, you have to play for the Super Bowl. And so you got to try to like pick two sides.
Right.
I think that it's so hard to actually get teams to be alive in the last week that if you want to just play, these are the teams that are going to be in the conference championship. And then really low, have like, let's say that Niners team, I had managed to stack up a bunch of Cowboys with, or Cowboys and Eagles. So it was like these, I'm going to have a lot of live players, at least in the championship round. And then maybe I only have 4 live players within the Super Bowl, but if they're the right 4, you can still score pretty highly. So yeah, I don't mind playing. You obviously, even more so than the normal best ball, you have to take what is given to you. So it's like if you get McCaffrey, you got to play McCaffrey. I mean, one thing I'm seeing, it looks like Tyreek's ADP is starting to fall. And I think it makes sense. It's hard for me to play the Dolphins all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good for them to get a win today without him, a convincing win, get a good performance from Waddle. But if anything, that just means like, well, he's hurt right now, and Waddle played well, and just get Waddle later. So yeah, I don't like getting going for him that high up. I don't really like taking Kelsey. To me, I'd rather draft Rice. I'd rather stack Mahomes, Rice straight up, because you don't have to. You don't.
Yeah.
I'd rather take one conference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You could stack up an Eagle and a Chief.
That makes sense. Yeah, so you're trying to think about who do you see getting to the Super Bowl and kind of maybe an AFC and an NFC stack, right?
I mean, that's the ideal. But if it's going to be easier to actually score points playing just one conference, then do that.
Right.
I mean, the Cowboys have 5 players, I think, that are interesting to draft.
Yeah.
The Niners have 5 players. It's running back is tough. Running back is really tough. It feels so tough. You want to see Keaton Mitchell do something tonight.
Definitely.
So that you can feel good about getting him up, taking him a little earlier because, yeah, I
Definitely.
mean, McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire scored today. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know. That's tough. I guess McKinnon, you're hoping for a game with a lot of passing, and you can go that route. Draft is underway. We got the
All right,
105.
we're live.
We are moving. Have you picked from the 105 yet?
I think so. I think I've typically been back here.
Yeah.
At 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't gotten McCaffrey yet.
So at 5, you mentioned that Tyreek Hill's ADP is slipping a little bit. He's someone who it looks like will probably be there. Kelsey, you said you wanted to avoid. Oh, there goes Hill 103. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would love Lamb.
Lamb would be nice
because he should be playing week 1. He'll probably go here.
Are you looking? Assuming it's Lamb, are you looking to skip the Niners here and go straight to like AJ Brown?
No, I think you could get a Niner, and you could either, you could try and stack the Niners and just see what happens. Because yeah, that's what I would do. I would just take Debo and just see what happens.
Yeah, I like that. Let's do Debo. Maybe we could even. I mean, Purdy is probably going pretty late, right?
No, that was what was weird about getting him.
No, right. He's right there.
As the 4th Niner that I did. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I got him and Kittle at like 18 in my 3rd and 4th picks after getting Debo and Ayuk.
Right. So here we have a choice between, I guess, Ayuk and Purdy. Are you want to get the QB here, or what are you thinking?
Well, that's what I did last time I took the receiver. I just doubled up on the receiver, because the advantage of doing that is you could potentially play Lamar. You don't know, right? Or you could play Tua, So I don't know. It's you make the call. I'm good with either one.
Okay, we're going Ayuk
receiver.
Then. All right, we got a Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk team from the 105. In this contest, you do end up starting 2 wide receivers and only 1 running back, 1 flex, 1 QB, and then 5 bench spots. So it does make sense to go after receiver early, I think. Am I thinking about that the right way?
Yeah, I think so. And then it's just like you're playing it that you have those 2 in the Super Bowl, so you can still have the AFC side open.
Right. Man, is that AJ Brown at 205?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, you still got Kittle. I mean, it's hard when you see if you see him still there, it's hard to pass on him because it's like, well, if they get there,
Right. Exactly.
But Lamar, I would take if he made it all the way. Then though, the problem is then you got to have a week 1 quarterback, but you could take Joe Flacco, in the last round.
That's right. Oh man, that would be something to like.
Isn't that
willfully draft Joe Flacco
to make it work?
And have to, yeah.
No, to do it on stream, you could say it's for the show. If you did it in the dark by yourself, that's really
that's right. That's right. Oh man,
I don't know. What are your thoughts on the getting so much bye week potentially with Lamar if he comes all the way back?
Yeah.
Well, we're only 9 seconds away.
That is a little tricky. Since we've
got Allen. I mean, we've got Dak. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Allen's a better play.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. They did win
Rashi.
today. Right. Oof. You would rather do one of those Rashi, 2 than Kittle?
Yeah, because then we have something from the AFC that's live in week 1.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
That should score points, and he should score more points than a lot of these guys.
All right, let's do that. He probably would have made it back to us at our next pick, but that's okay. Get the guys you want. No sense waiting. Now,
I also think it means, you can play some Chiefs running backs later. Dirty
right,
Chiefs running backs.
right. It's a good call.
Click on the running back tab.
Yeah.
So I just want to see the running. Yeah, see, look, I mean, we could play a Bills Chiefs AFC championship. Is there a path
Yeah.
for that?
I don't know yet. Probably.
Allen and James Cook.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'm good with that. If you
What are
don't
the
want to,
Bills' paths to not get? What are the paths to miss the playoffs right now? I don't really.
after winning today, it's obviously easier. Let's see. We are on the clock, 24
All right, so what are we
seconds. Let me
doing
see
here?
if I can figure it out.
I almost want to get James Cook. Ah, it's tough. I worry about him.
Okay.
Oh, that's really hard.
What are
That's
you
really
thinking?
hard.
Cook is at the top of the queue.
Maybe you need.
He
Maybe you need Allen.
probably.
He's ahead in ADP. He's ahead in ADP.
All right, we got Allen. A little bit of a reach,
Let's let
maybe.
James Cook come back.
Yeah, I think the
We're doing it for James Cook. We talked about James Cook tonight. We got to try to make it happen.
right. Let's see. I'm trying to see this. ESPN has this playoff picture thing, but it hasn't been updated yet. Playoff machine. So Bills win. I don't know. Even after the win, are they still on the outside looking in for a playoff spot? That doesn't really make sense, does it?
I don't know. I remember the odds seemed weird to me. Like they
Yeah.
still had like an uphill battle somewhat, but that's why it's hard to do these at this time,
Right.
But it's also like maybe how you get super teams.
Exactly. I do think the Bills
I mean, if
have
Allen had a bye locked up, he'd be what, fifth, third? Like where would he
yeah,
go? Or not a bye
right.
locked up, but the playoff spot
Like the
locked up.
playoff, yeah, he'd be one of the top
Yeah.
picks for sure. Yeah, I mean, week 16 they play the Chargers, so they should be able to win that one. Patriots in week 17 is not an easy matchup, and then Dolphins in week 18 also not easy. So it is definitely an uphill battle, not only in terms of kind of their current record, but also in terms of their upcoming schedule. But yeah, I'm okay with it. All right.
Yeah. What choice we got now?
We
Yeah, well,
lost
he's gone.
Cook. We are on the clock. Kind of
A little stranded.
yeah, not a lot of guys to stack up. I mean, man, we could go Mitchell, but week one bye probably ETN is always interesting.
Yeah, I mean Gibbs, we can turn to the Lions. We can pivot to the Lions.
All right, let's do that. I like Gibbs.
One of the things about these, if you're doing them in volume, is just, and I didn't do gauntlets in volume, but like I did more mittens. And sometimes it's like, you know what, this isn't going how I want. Let me try to get the points to at least get this one back,
Right.
and not have it be a complete disaster. And you might anger your draft mates because you're gonna pick picks that they say don't work, can't win.
Right.
But you know what? They can get you your entry fee back.
Yeah, for sure.
So that you live to draft another draft.
All right, I added some.
So yeah, I mean that's
some Lions. We can go Laporta and bet on Goff getting back to us, right?
I like it.
Although, yeah, I guess we do want to draft another QB because Allen might not even make the playoffs. It'd be one thing if you could get a QB who was like definitely already in and also almost certainly didn't have a week 1 bye. Then maybe you could get away with drafting one.
But isn't that Flacco?
Yeah, right. Oh man.
I mean,
that would be an interesting strategy. Only Flacco as your quarterback.
what is the Chiefs' path back to? If the Ravens win tonight, can the Chiefs get the 1 seed?
If the Ravens win tonight, let's see. Probably they can. I mean, if we assume the Ravens lose the rest of their matchups and the Chiefs win,
right?
Let's just see if this ESPN playoff machine is kind of helpful if you can figure out how it works, which it's not always obvious. Yeah, I mean the only thing is that the Ravens do play Miami in week 17. So if Miami beats the Ravens, then I think they would get the 1 seed probably. So it's even if the Ravens lose and the Chiefs win the rest of their games, it still is not.
It's not really the Chiefs. Yeah, so that's why it's kind of weird that Mahomes and that Rice is as low as he is, and that it's not like Mahomes, Rice, Kelsey, kind of closer to the top there. I would think that people would still almost like the Chiefs better than the Ravens to make it back, just based on what they've done, the history, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I think for me, I probably still, if we're going to do the Bills here, I probably like Kincaid better.
Okay. We don't have to if you have another thought. I was just adding some guys we might want to the queue, but if you
we're kind of in there. I mean, we have 1 running back only right now, right? What's the Rams pass? We haven't even talked about Rams. Jeez,
that's right.
Louise. It's so hard to do these right now.
I know.
It's really so hard.
You said what's the Rams path, so
we got a Ram now.
I put Kyron in the queue and we got him.
We've got a Ram now.
We can still get Kincaid, but you definitely want to get more of the wide receiver tight end, I think, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to take a
just looking. Stafford is still down there.
Ty Johnson, Latavius Murray.
Yeah, the running backs.
Oh man.
We're gonna get Kincaid.
I guess we did Kincaid here.
I'm looking like the Falcons don't have a great path to the playoffs, especially after losing today. Maybe they even are knocked out, kind of. Getting Bijan would be not, like it at that price. If somehow they make it.
No, I think the Falcons are knocked. Aren't they knocked out? I think they're eliminated, aren't they?
Well,
Rashad White, I remember taking at the end. I think I took White as a round 10 pick.
Yeah, I like that.
But the problem is this team's not going to have any running back left once the Rams and the Lions are gone. We got, if we're trying to play a Bills Niners Super Bowl.
I mean, it's kind of gross, but we could
take.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Or do you even bother? Do you take? Do you just? Oh man. Because I mean, there's nobody here that would even be alive in the championship round for.
I know.
Oh man.
This gets bad pretty quick.
What are the Texans? Devin Singletary?
Yeah, right.
You can't. Yeah, Cook. We should have taken Cook. We should have taken Cook.
Probably right.
And played a Lions.
Bills, we don't have it. We don't have any Cowboys. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Lions Bills Super Bowl. Yeah. I mean, at this point, anything could happen. A lot of games left. You want to go White here, or you think we should look elsewhere?
I I mean,
we could go
White gets
Latavius.
White increases the advance rate.
That's true.
Latavius is the guy if you're actually playing for the future. So it's like, is this a burnt draft? If it's a burnt draft, you take White. If you think it's got a chance, you take Murray.
Let's see if we can get them both. We got White there. We have one pick left.
Yeah, I like skipping Clyde.
Yeah. Okay. We have one pick left. We could try and get another quarterback. We could take, I don't even know who makes sense. We could take Flacco or Stafford, or we could take Murray.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah.
If we're playing for the Bills to do something, which we kind of are since we have Allen, maybe it makes sense to go Murray here and hope for some touchdowns. All right. So this is maybe an exercise in what not to do.
It's inevitable. That's why the mitten is great, because you do this for $5 instead of $25.
Right.
Because it's still like when you're trying to ask yourself who you get 2 weeks from now, you're not just asking yourself who's in the playoffs, but you've got certain teams that are cut out, and now you're getting closer to who's playing who. What are the potential paths, and that makes it a lot easier to like feel like you know what you're doing.
Right. So the team for listeners, we have Josh Allen at quarterback, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyron Williams, Rashad White, Latavius Murray at running back, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Rashee Rice, Sam Laporta, and Dalton Kincaid round out the team. I mean, the players are guys I love. This is a team I would love to have if we had been a little bit smarter about.
If it was scored as just cumulative scoring for the first 2 weeks.
Right. If you get to use
some of their regular season format.
It is.
It's a tough exercise because it's like you're blocked in week 1 from using a bunch of the best players,
Yeah.
And you look at the first round with CMC, Deebo. I mean, in the top 10 ADPs, you have 4 Niners or like 11.
Mm-hmm.
I think Purdy was like 10.5. And if they're not there in week 1, it's like there's going to be so many Niners teams that just don't advance because you don't have those points. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, I wonder if there's any value this early out in just kind of going after the teams that are expected to be number 1 seeds, kind of in hopes that if they lose a game or two, they'll drop down and you will have gotten that extra game kind of at a discount. But you're not really seeing a discount on the Niners, so it doesn't seem to work that way.
Well, it's like even if it had been a couple of days ago versus a couple of days from now, maybe there's a little bit of an adjustment. Maybe with the Ravens, they're looking they're off to a good start here. Maybe with another win,
right?
The Chiefs start to rise a little bit when it looks like the Chiefs are going to be there the whole way. I mean, I'm inclined to draft. I'm worried about my Eagles. So I'm inclined to go heavier on Chiefs. Mahomes and Rice to me should start to be a more sought after pair, such that they should be at the turn. And because that's like the sense. Combo that could go the whole way. Or if you want to bet on the Bills, if it starts to become clearer that they have that path. Again, I feel a little silly talking about it, not knowing. Maybe somebody's out there this is what the path is, I don't know.
Or paying better attention than we are who know what something we're missing. But, there's a lot of moving pieces here. So anything can happen. We have this team that looks pretty bad right now, but who knows if Josh Allen and the Bills can make a run and make a playoff run, maybe we'll be all right.
It's disorienting too, because like it's easy to think of the season like it's going to be over in week 17,
Yeah,
but like the week 18 games matter a lot for these drafts, for how these
that's
teams,
right.
get put together,
That's right. That's right. All right. Yeah, that was fun. Hopefully I'll get in some more of these, and maybe they'll look a little better once I have figured out this playoff
The,
format and all the scenarios. But
yeah.
Yeah,
The key is to take the screenshot of the team while it looks good in the process of building it, and don't show how it turns out.
That's right. That's right. I'm happy. These are all guys I like. Like I said, I'm happy to be rooting for all these players. So it's a win from that perspective.
Yeah, maybe we should maybe Rashad White, final dynasty thoughts on him, and Kyron, since they both ended up on here on this team.
That's right. Yeah, Rashad White and Kyron. I mean, they're both kind of surprising this season. Yeah, I don't know. What's your take on either of these guys?
It's probably a similar situation to Chandler, or just that where they are in the contract.
Yeah,
if the team can just ride them, why not? So, yeah, it's tough. Probably they were buy lows all year, and I don't know about the offseason. The lack of running backs. Well, I don't know. We're in a time right now, and I'm not really in any dynasty leagues that have trading open right now, but we're in a time where there's a perceived lack of running backs coming in. So those guys should be worth more now, like a Kyron or Rashad White. Maybe that perception will change over the next couple months, and we'll be like, oh, actually, there's 5 guys that we're really excited about.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now, if you can still trade for them or trade them away, I think it's interesting to go in either direction. If someone wants to pay a lot, maybe you trade them away. If people are still looking to trade them, maybe you get them, and they're going to be good scores for the next couple of years. So
yeah, they're both guys who, we talked about the perpetual reloading earlier, and they both strike me as guys that you would want to try to move off your team at a good price pretty soon in order to restock, especially like you said, this coming class maybe doesn't look so good at the running back position, but I mean, if I can get an early pick to spend on a wide receiver, trade Kyron Williams for a pick that turns into Marvin Harrison Jr., then I'm all about that. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah. But no, that's probably not. But I guess it's like, would you trade him for the 112 in Superflex?
In Superflex, yeah. Yeah, that's a close one. I think that's where it becomes a pretty close discussion. All of these guys who are late round picks, I'm thinking, go back to a guy like Philip Lindsay, who played well for Denver. And even so, they kind of, after a couple seasons, they drafted Javonte over him, and he was kind of out of there. So I don't know, that probably has something to do with the kind of draft pedigree. And so from that perspective, you worry about a guy like Kyron, who wasn't a high pick, who doesn't have a lot of that capital behind him. White was a little bit earlier, so maybe he has some more staying power. But, both of these teams, I think, are candidates to add guys in the draft in 3rd or 4th round or something. So it wouldn't be that surprising to see both of these guys lose some value. So maybe the 112 is fair.
Yeah, I think you have to, and that's what's hard, because like I'm saying that about Kyron's had some months. They've both had some really big games.
Yep.
But yeah, with the way the class looks, with the number of quarterbacks that may be coming in, and again, that's we're going back to the conversation about the value of quarterbacks in dynasty, but a lot of it is that if you keep making the trades, then it's safe to always be turning these guys over. but you can't stop. It's like you have to turn the running back into the quarterback, but then you have to remember that the quarterback is overvalued. So then, or potentially overvalued. So then you might have to turn the quarterback into, another quarterback and a pick that can become that other running back that you then, turn into the pick again. But yeah, the quarterbacks and the receivers are just like, once you make that conversion of position, you're safer, even if you literally lose all the production. Like from a value standpoint, you are safer. So I think it's right that you probably have to trade both of them. And it feels weird to say that, because it was totally valid if you traded that late first to get them going into the playoffs to potentially win. And it may have been a move that worked out for you,
Yeah.
But if you can turn around and then do it again at the end of the season, buy them, you score with them, and then trade them away, that's probably the way to do it. But it's really hard to make a move, because I mean, my brother and I got bailed out of a Dameon Pierce acquisition from last year, but we tried to buy into Pierce last year to get some production. No, we didn't pay a first, but it was like a second kind of trade, something like that. Actually, it may have been more. I think we traded Ayuk, and it was, there was more to the deal, but we knew we were sort of overpaying for a running back at the time. And then somebody came along and bailed us out. But it's hard. A lot of times you try to buy that running back production, and then turns out you didn't get it.
For sure. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, yeah, so tricky to say you should be selling these guys after the seasons they've put up. But I mean, we've seen a lot of examples of how quickly that production can just fall off a cliff. So you definitely want to be on the early side with these guys.
Yeah, that's why I like having a bunch of teams. You trade them away when you can, get a good return, and then you wait for the opportunities where maybe somebody's tired of them or whatever. Buy the dip somewhere else, so to speak. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining. You want to tell everyone where they can find you and interact with you?
Well, I've been getting more active on Twitter. I'm still choosing to call it that generally. And so at Phillipi there. Writing on RotoViz, probably a couple more as the fantasy season winds down. And then been starting to cover some of the next year's running backs. So trying to keep up with that. Awesome. Trying to figure out who these guys are that we're going to draft and then trade again. Keep that perpetual reload going.
That's right. Never ends. All right. Well, thanks again. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. And we will talk at you next week.
Thanks for having me.